Hey guys, Bill the Kansas Flamingo Chef. Welcome back to another edition. And today, well, it's coming into fall. Even though it's hot outside where I am, it's getting that time of year where we start making soups and stews, comfort foods. And today, we're going to use this beautiful lamb and make some Irish stew. Our ingredients for this are really pretty easy. First of all, you gotta have lamb. Now what I've got here is a boneless leg of lamb that I've cut up and cut the fat away. And notice I'm not throwing that away. We're gonna use that for our first step. But I've just cut this into cubes. There's a little over 3 pounds here. But 3 to 4 pounds is about right for this dish. I've also got a pound of bacon that I've cut up. We've got a couple of onions, about 6 just white russet potatoes, peeled, cut up, and rinsed, and a bag of carrots that's 2 pounds, peeled, washed, and cut. I've got some dried parsley, dried basil, white all-purpose flour. We've got salt and pepper, bone broth, or you can use beef broth. Either one is fine. You're going to need a lot of it anyway. You can even use, I wouldn't recommend it, but you could use like a bouillon and make your own. We're going to need some minced garlic, and then the secret to this, to get that Irish depth, we're going to need some Guinness. Now you're going to need about 1 bottle, which is 11.5 ounces per pound and a half of beef. So if you want to use a can instead, that's fine, but do use the Guinness draft. We're going to use that nitrous and build that sauce up front. Let's get started. We're going to start this dish with some garlic butter, and I don't need a whole lot. On about medium-high heat, I'm going to put maybe not even quite a tablespoon in there on each side of the pan and let that reduce a little bit. As it's beginning to reduce, we're going to take our bacon and just dump it in. This pan is not hot yet, and keep in mind, if you don't know this already, anytime you add cold product to your pan, you also reduce the heat of the pan, so you've got to let that build up before we add our next ingredient. So that's going to work for 2 or 3 minutes, start to extract some fat, and then we'll add something. After only 2 or 3 minutes, you're going to hear that sizzle start, and you're going to see some fat start to come out of the bacon. Move it around a little bit, find a spot. Remember, you're going to cool your pan off when you do this. We're going to add the trimmings, the fat that we pulled off of the lamb when you slice it out. Good grief, my tongue's out. And also add some pepper all the way around, and some salt. Not that the bacon's not salty enough, but those flavors will combine. Smooth that lamb fat around in there. Trust me, I know this seems like a lot of work just to extract fat, but I promise you, if you do it this way, your stew's going to wind up much better flavored and finished when it's all done. We're going to leave this alone for, 2 or 3 minutes. It's only been a couple minutes, but you can see how that fat is rendering out of there. And what you want to do is move this around a little bit, so we can change the surface area and just keep putting that bacon cooked down. In a little bit, we're going to take the lamb bits, the fat out, and leave the bacon in. Right now, we're going to go ahead and maybe add half of your onion. Not just, I've got almost 3 good-sized onions here. I put maybe 1 medium onion in there. That's all you need. We're going to top this and let this cook for about another 4 or 5 minutes. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and actually raise our heat a little bit and take this top off. You can see more fat has come out of that. The bacon's starting to cook a little more, but we don't want this to start to get stuck. Because now what we're going to do is take this meat out of this pan as much as we can and leave as much of the fat as possible. I'm going to turn the heat completely off now and let this render a little bit. It's okay to leave a few little scraps in there, just not big pieces, and take your pan off the heat. So, as happens sometimes when you're shooting these videos, somehow the segment that you were supposed to see didn't get recorded. But what you see here is the roux that's made from the Guinness beer, the fat that we've extracted, and flour. It's a really simple process. You just pour the Guinness one bottle at a time into the pan, mix in some flour, continually stirring it with a whisk and bringing the heat up, and then add the second bottle and do the same thing. The whole idea is to just get a deep brown roux-like mixture that's going to be the base of the stew. I apologize for the missing segment. Okay, hopefully you notice there's a new stock pot. Now I'm going to turn the heat on this stock pot to about medium. I'm still stirring my Guinness base here once in a while with the onions. It smells absolutely amazing. It's a good time to add a little salt and a little pepper just to get your flavor profile in. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting our potatoes into a stock pot that is warming. Potatoes are in. We're going to add this beautiful stuff that we're making here. But first, I'm going to take this jar of bone broth and dump it in over the potatoes. Okay, now I'm going to let these potatoes cook on high for a couple of minutes just to let some of that bone broth sink in. Then we'll start to build. Now with that, I'm going to take some of the bacon that we took out, the bacon and onions, and put some of that back into this pot. You don't need all of it, but it adds great flavor. So we'll put some of that in with the potatoes. And we'll let those come to a simmer, even to a boil. And then we'll add this. In the meantime, we're going to take the heat off of our roux base. Okay, just for the purpose of making it easier to follow, I've switched sides on the stove. I've got this at high. I've got the heat completely turned off on the other side. I've got this box of beef broth, not bone broth. The bone broth's in there. It's coming up to heat. It's just barely starting to simmer. So as that happens, I'm going to go ahead and add the beef broth, which is a pretty large container. It says family size. 3 pounds, it says. That's an interesting measurement for beef broth. But we'll just let that go in here. And bring that up to a boil. And I'll see you in a few minutes once it's boiling. All right, so we are coming to a boil. Just a thought, we're done with this stuff. Now, traditionally, you would keep it, make hash out of it, but you can throw it away if you want to, unless you have something else you plan to cook with it. Me, I'm just going to probably make a hash out of it for breakfast. All right, so as we come to a boil, we're going to add our carrots next. And just let those turn in there. Let that sit as it is for just a moment. And then in the next couple of minutes, you're going to add the equivalent of about 6 cloves of garlic. If you're using minced garlic like I am, just use 6 teaspoons to tablespoons, depending how much garlic you like. And as always, we're going to salt and pepper. I like a lot of pepper. Now once you start to smell garlic, you're going to turn this a little bit and then add dry spices. So you can use pre-dried basil. I make my own dried basil, whatever. Enough to almost cover the top of the pot. And then do the same thing with parsley. Turn that in. All right, let this come to a boil. Once it comes to a good roaring boil, put your meat in. But then I'll show you the key. All right, you can see I got a good roaring boil. I'm gonna bring my heat down to about medium. We're gonna grab our Guinness slurry we have here. Pour that in. Try to get all of it. Spatula and just kind of work that off of the pan. That sound you hear is some fell onto the burner. Now we're going to stir this. The only thing left to do is put the meat in and let it cook. So in they go. Oh, a little overflow. Probably should have used a bigger pot. It's all right. We'll put that down in. Now you want to let this cook at a lower temperature for quite a while. So I'm going to turn my my temperature down to about 3 and just let it sit here for about the next 2 to 2.5 hours. And if it boils over, clean up. And that's it. And I'll see you when it's done. So it's been simmering for just about an hour. I want to show you what it looks like because, man, my whole house smells good. Let's take a look. All right, so we got about another hour to go on this, but if we open this up, holy cow, that looks good. And we'll just try to stir it around a little bit. You can see how it's thickening, which is exactly the point of putting that Guinness slurry in there. The potatoes are cooked through. Most of the lamb is cooked through. Carrots are probably pretty much done. Really all that's happening now is the flavors are melding together. Now what I really recommend at this point is that you taste it and see if you need more salt or if you need more pepper or if you need some other flavor, if you need some savory. I just literally added about a teaspoon of salt, a couple grains of pepper, and that's it. All right, it's that time. I mean, this smells amazing. I'm going to turn the heat off. And let's see how this looks. Oh my goodness, look at that. Yeah. I know there's probably some of you going, well, but it's lamb. I'm not a lamb person. That's okay. Give it a shot anyway. And if you really don't want to use lamb, I mean, it's not going to be a true Irish stew, but you could use beef. Wouldn't be the way I'd do it, but you could do it. That is a thing of beauty. I'm going to sit down and eat. I highly recommend you enjoy this with a nice Guinness. Traditionally, Irish stew would be served with a soda bread. I didn't make any soda bread, and honestly, I'm not a big bread guy. So I'm going to eat it just like this. When you pour a Guinness, start it down the side, finish it straight on, let it build. Don't waste it. I would never pour a Guinness into an ice cold glass. If you go to a restaurant and they're serving Guinness in a frozen glass, just get up and leave. It absolutely destroys it. All right, right, so you can see there's a lot of steam coming off of this, so it's going to be a little warm. We'll just get all this broth. That's fantastic. You get the herbs and the lamb and that heaviness of the Guinness. Absolutely phenomenal. As always, if there's something you'd like me to cook, a recipe you'd like me to try, make a comment on the video. Send me an email at billstout@chef.net. I'm happy to try just about anything, but in the meantime, you should try this. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Eat fabulous. Have an awesome day. Cheers.